This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Economic Survey 2023. The participants are S.P. Sharma, Economic Analyst, and Rajesh Lake, AIR Correspondent.
Dr. Sharma, India's growth outlook seems better than in the pre-pandemic years, and it is prepared to grow at its potential in the medium term. This is what the outlook of the Economic Survey 2022-23 says. What is your comment on that?
Yes, because now we have great resilience of our economy, supported by so many reforms undertaken by the government during the last 3 years, particularly after the coronavirus. So we recovered sharply from the impact of coronavirus in 2021, and we recovered in the second quarter, and that was the quick recovery. And in the next year, we posted at around 9% growth, 8.8% growth in the financial year of 21-22 from the lows of 2021. So that was a quick recovery and sound recovery, that we were the fastest moving economy in the world economic system, and we were very much resilient and visible in the global charts. Now, our growth after the great growth of post-pandemic year, 21-22, again we are posting a 7% growth rate for the current year, that is 22-23. And for the next year, now the economic survey is envisaging that we will grow at around 6.5%. So we are consistently growing from the lows of coronavirus. We posted growth number of around 9%, then we are posting around 7% for the current year, and second year again we will grow at 6.5% despite so many headwinds, despite high inflation, despite so many uncertainties in the global market arena. So our economy has become resilient economy, particularly after the coronavirus, with the support of various segments of the economy. Like our agriculture sector is very, very supportive, for which we are growing 3% during the last 3-4 years. That is a great support of the agriculture sector, and that has built a strong resilience of the Indian economy.
So what, according to you, are the highlights of the economic survey?
Yes, the highlights are that we will grow at around 6.5% for the next year, and our nominal growth will be at around 11%, and capital investments by the government are increasing at the rate of more than 60%, and private investments are also reviving, and export trajectory, though slowing, but the sound demand is supporting the economy to post the desired growth number, and inflation is now diminishing, though the economy faced high inflation trajectory whole of the year, which has now started diminishing. And going forward, we have a great opportunity. We are still fastest moving economy despite so many headwinds, and we will remain a bright spot in the global ecosystem for the next many years. So economic survey is very positive and providing a great picture of the Indian economy, that yes, we are progressing towards to developed economy, and we have already recovered from the coronavirus. Now we have a great next orbit to enter to post the new numbers and to become more and more strong and visible in the global ecosystem.
So what about the retail inflation? It is heartening to note that what RBI says, that the target range in November 2022 is back.
Yes, though inflation impacted the economy, and the economy was earlier projected to grow more than 8%, but with the impact of inflation, that too in the global market arena, inflation was very high. So that's why economic growth was not that much intact, more than 8%. So, but we are able to grow more than 7%. Though RBI increased the repo rate by 125 basis points since March 2022, but the support of the demand trajectory and support of the resilient sectors of the economy, we are able to grow at a comfortable rate of 7%. Though many economies are still facing the heat of the inflation, and inflation is at high or peak rate in these recent months also. But we controlled the inflation in our earlier months, like we started our policy process, calibrated policy steps to control the inflation in the months of March, April, May. And we were able to achieve the peak of the inflation during the months of June and July, and after that inflation had started decelerating, and now both inflations, WPI and CPI, are below 6%.
The survey also says that once the global shocks of the pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine conflict resulting in spike of commodity crisis fade away, the Indian economy is poised to grow faster in the coming decade. That's quite heartening to note.
Yes, global shocks were there, and now still economy is facing the global shocks like Russia-Ukraine conflict, and now integrated of the economy is also very much visible with the global market, and our export and our investments are very much connected in the global market, and global integratedness has increased significantly. But the resilience of the economy, like fundamentals of the economy, supported the economy at this juncture, and government also took so many reform measures and the policy measures and the calibrated steps to mitigate the impact of global headwinds and to support the economy from the grassroots level. And I believe the demand trajectory, the sound demand is a major growth driver of the Indian economy at this juncture, and that has to be supported with so many reforms. Like I am thinking that government must focus on consumption-driven budget, which will provide a great room for the factories to expand their capacity levels, because if the demand is increased, and that is also supported by the government with the direct benefit transfers and so many other measures like tax incentives to the middle class, then there will be capacity expansion in the factories. With the increased consumption level, the capacity expansions will happen, and production possibility frontiers will also expand. And the factories will also be able to deploy more and more workforce in their respective premises. So I think that will be a great big push to the economy if the government focuses on rationalizing the taxes, particularly for the middle class, and personal disposable income is increased, and they are able to spend more in the market.
In the economic survey, Dr. Sharma, with improved balance sheets of the banking and non-banking and corporate sectors, fresh credit cycle has begun, as is evident from the double-digit growth in bank credit over the past months. How do you see the future of banking now in India?
Yes, I think this was both way. Like, firstly, the government did reforms for the MSME sector, and they provided the ECLG scheme. Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme was there to support the MSME sector. And that was also with the simplification of the many norms to get the credit from the banks. And banks' balance sheets also improved. And that's why we are able to grow more than 30% in the credit growth. That is a great thing for the economy, and which is indicating that now the industry is in progress and in the expansionary mode. So going forward, I think there must be more focus on the credit expansion, because MSME sector holds a great potential to move forward, and particularly they are sometimes impacted by the lesser working capital, and they face some time of collaterals from the banks and some stringent norms. So there must be some uniformity for demanding the compliances like paperwork to provide the credit. So if this facilitation becomes more and more strong and simplified, I think credit growth will expand more from this level and provide a great facilitation to the MSME sector and their contribution in the growth trajectory, in the GDP growth of the country.
Now, the economy has started benefiting from the efficiency gains resulting from greater formalization, higher financial inclusion, and economic opportunities created by digital technology-based economic reform. So, what do you foresee the role of technology going forward?
Yes, I would say that before the adoption of technology or a digital economy, I think GST was also a major growth driver to convert the informal economy in the formal system. Because GST earlier came with some complication, but month after month, quarter after quarter, and year after year, GST is becoming more and more simple. And people are adopting the GST, and which is also reflected from the tax in GST collections every month. So with the GST and the faceless interactions in the direct taxation, now digital systems are becoming more and more robust, and digital transactions are now in billions. So going forward, I think this will provide a great ease of doing business and ease of living to the people for adoption of these new technologies, and particularly the adoption of the digital economy.
So there seems to be strong medium-term growth magnets to aid India's economic growth. So what's your take on it, Dr. Sharma?
Yes, I think all these systems like the modernization and technological developments, digitalization, all these things are going to impact positively the growth system, and they will speed up the growth system and enhance the GDP, because with the speed of the transactions like digital transactions, there is a great scope to expand more and to save the time. So we look forward that growth will become more and more strong with the adoption of the digital technologies and modernization processes.
So what about the various reforms that have been undertaken between 2014 and 2022 and how they have strengthened the Indian economy?
Yes, there are so many lucrative reforms like after the impact of coronavirus and slowdown in the economy, government started reforms. Atmanirbhar reforms were there, and then the government provided so many reforms for the MSME sector, NBFC, for the agriculture sector also. And recently government has announced a great policy which is National Logistics Policy. I think sometimes the businesses face high transaction cost because of the tedious transportation system and the high logistic cost. So now the government has come out with the simplified logistics policy, which is very much compatible with the industry. And I think cost of logistics will reduce, which is right now at 14% of GDP. So with the improvement in the logistic cost, and the ease of doing business, like government has introduced the single window system, which is now adopted by more than 16 states and which is providing a great room to the industry and the particularly MSMEs to move forward and to get their approval at the faster pace. So all these recent reforms are very much beneficial for the trade and industry, and impact of such reforms has become also visible as we are now a resilient economy. Despite so many headwinds, despite so many difficulties, and despite so many uncertainties, the growth trajectory is strong, and we are the fastest moving economy among the leading economies.
The Finance Minister stated that with an underlying emphasis on improving the ease of living and doing business, the reforms that you just mentioned, Dr. Sharma, were based on the broad principles of creating public goods, adopting trust-based governance, co-partnering with the private sector for development, and improving agricultural productivity. This seems to be a step in the right direction going forward.
Yes, all these reforms are majorly pathfinder, because earlier some roadblocks were there in the investments and approvals were not happening and the processes were so much time-taking. So now with the advent of reforms, particularly the speed of reforms after the impact of coronavirus, has supported the economy and made it more and more resilient in the global ecosystem, which is visible by the numbers.
And also, what about the fiscal developments? Government has shown government has said that there's a resilient performance during the year FY23, facilitated by recovery in economic activity and also, buoyancy in revenues from direct taxes and GST and realistic assumptions in the budget. So how do you foresee 2023-24?
Yes, I think that is true that our taxation system has improved and the projections, revenue projections also have come true, and government is able to improve the fiscal deficit, and worries are diminishing, and for the next year fiscal deficit will be more in a improved form. So because now the economy has projected at the rate of 6.5% and the nominal growth will be at around 11%. So the collections and the revenue trajectory will remain intact, and the government finances will also be strong, and fiscal deficit will also be addressed. I think next financial year we will have below 6% fiscal deficit to move forward from here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma, for being with us and throwing light on the Economic Survey 2022-23.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Economic Survey 2023. The participants were Economic Analyst S.P. Sharma and Rajesh Lake, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.